Nipe mapenzi yako. Ninakuenzi bad boy. You drive me crazy bad boy.
I was on several formulas prescribed by the doctor. So I never got a chance to breastfeed my son at all. I never got a chance to bond with him the very first 3 months. And for me, it was just confusing because I don't remember giving birth to him. So I see him about 3 weeks after. I don't know this person. And I don't know if I love them. I just want to concentrate on getting the patient better.
Yeah.
But not necessarily dealing with their mental health.
The mental and the psychological side of things, yeah?
Very depressing because you walk in a hospital, you just have a fever, and you think you'll be out, and next thing 3 months down the line, you're still in a hospital.
Formula should be prescribed. It shouldn't be just something like you should now be sitting at home, oh, I have this baby, let me go to the supermarket and buy formula. What's good, everybody? It's Ask Dr. Rain. I am your host, Dr. Rain, and we're back at it. And if you don't already know, make sure you click the subscribe button. Make sure you follow us on the socials, Ask Dr. Rain. We keep the flow of the conversation around breastfeeding going, people. This is real stories from real mothers all the way from Africa, where we keep it real, we keep it 100 all the time. And this conversation is all around the breastfeeding journey and when people transition or are forced to transition into taking formula. The next story is such an amazing story because this is a mom who I know personally, who I happened to share so much emotional attachment to, and talking about her experience. So her pregnancy was complicated. She had to have a cesarean section. She had to have a premature delivery. So the baby was born preterm at around six months. So really, she was really unwell, and she had no other choice but to introduce formula to her child. And as usual, we really have to explain and stress the fact that we're not here to promote any formula or brand. We're just here to talk about real experiences. And breastfeeding, if you don't know all about breastfeeding, make sure you check out my other episodes that highlight all the good things about breastfeeding and how to maintain successful breastfeeding so you don't ever have to touch formula unless you have a really unfortunate situation like what happened with my next guest, who is called Massie Motubatse. So listen, here's the thing. A lot of people tend to just pick up all these formulas from the supermarket. You really shouldn't be doing that. Breastfeeding is actually the best, and sometimes you don't even have to turn to formula because on your lack of knowledge of how to breastfeed, okay? So it's important to understand that there are also different formulas. When a baby is born premature, they have different requirements from a newborn who was born at term, or they actually reached their estimated date of delivery, their EDD, okay? So make sure that when you do get to a position of putting formula, it shouldn't come from you, mom. It should come from the pediatrician. We have to sit down with you and really eliminate that you actually absolutely require this formula instead of breast milk, because breast milk can never be replaced. But also the safest option when you can't breastfeed is formula. And I've talked to you about cow's milk. Cow's milk is a bit different. Don't introduce cow's milk when your child is below 1 year. This, especially at 2 months, 3 months, you shouldn't really be introducing anything other than breast milk. And if you can't get breast milk, give your child formula, because cow's milk has a very high sodium concentration, and it also can lead to a lot of damages to your child's or your growing baby's kidneys, okay? And that can lead to a whole complication, can lead to it can lead to kidney failure, and then it can lead to your baby being admitted into hospital, and you really, really don't want that. So be very, very careful what you introduce to your child other than breast milk. And the stress about it is, if it's not breast milk and you've tried absolutely everything and you have no choice like this, my next guest, then the best bet is formula. Let's take this journey together. Let's listen to these stories. Let's educate you. Let's inform you. Let's always keep it 100 with your Ask Dr. Rain coming up. Welcome back to Ask Dr. Rain. I am your host, Dr. Rain, and we continue the breastfeeding conversation as it grows. We really don't have enough information for our African mothers. And joining me today is South African lawyer and entrepreneur, and also who happens to be my sister, Massie Motubatse. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for having us. And thank you for just opening up and being willing to have this conversation in between or in the middle of your holiday. So karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How's Kenya? How's Kenya?
Kenya is great. The weather is cool, but I prefer the coast, you know.
Yeah.
But Nairobi is doing it for me for now, so I'm thankful.
Okay. So I'm going to use the name Dodo,
Okay.
if you allow me to. So Dodo, you basically reside in South Africa. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Massie Motubatse, as you know. Originally from Botswana, but I stay in South Africa. I'm an attorney by profession, but I've since diverted to business management a bit. I run a business and I'm just raising my kids and just trying to figure life out.
Wow. Okay. So you're just all these things plus a mom on top of it.
Yes, but I'm a mom first. I've always been a mom first. I try and live up to the societal pressures of being a mom, and so far so good.
Okay. So we've been going on with this series of mine where we talk about breastfeeding, and we're talking about all the experiences that mothers go through, whether it's support at home, support in the workplace. And last time we spoke about formula and why mothers tend to end up using formula, even though it's something that us doctors are so against. We really like to preach about breastfeeding and the good things about it. Now, for you, yours was a special situation, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, is because you had no other choice but to start your baby on formula from the day he was born because you were unwell. So in your pregnancy, you got really, really sick. And then maybe you can tell us about that. What was the journey? What happened?
Okay. My firstborn, I did get a chance to breastfeed, so it was okay, although it had its own disadvantages and other things that I can talk about later. So with my son, I had an easy pregnancy, but somehow after 5 months, I was not well. So from 5.5 months to 6 months when he was born, I was in a hospital. I wasn't well myself, but the child was fine. So I obviously had to have an emergency C-section, and the baby was delivered. And I was not there because I had to go through my lung surgery, and somebody had to take care of my kids, my son, I mean. The first week, I understand that he got donated breast milk from the hospital, thanks God. Okay. But obviously, as a premature, he needed the breast milk for a long time, but it wasn't possible. So from the second week or so, he was on several formulas prescribed by the doctor. So I never got a chance to breastfeed my son at all. I never got a chance to bond with him the very first 3 months. So it was kind of difficult because, you know, the society tells you he's going to reject you, he's going to be sickly, he's going to be skinny. People are going to gossip that you don't wanna breastfeed your child. So it's sad because you actually want to, but you don't have that choice. But people just gossip. They don't even know what is happening. So yeah, I didn't get that chance at all. It wasn't a nice experience, but yeah, it was what it was at the time.
So you would say that there was lack of also social and community support because people didn't understand. You know, like breastfeeding, you need support from home. First things first, you need support from home. You need support from, you know, the community. People should encourage you about breastfeeding. So you already felt that time when you felt like you couldn't breastfeed, the society was making you feel like less of a mom.
Yes, definitely. I would say even doctors don't really teach you or prepare you. You know, they would just suggest things, but not necessarily give you all the information. For instance, my son started on S26, then changed to Gold Nan, then changed to something else, but they know why they're changing, but no one really tells you what's happening, why they're changing, or involving you, you know, because you feel like it's your child, you want to know why they're changing. Is it a better one? Or is he not, you know, they don't really tell you, they don't really involve you. And parents, it's different. My mom is very supportive, my mother-in-law was supportive, but at some point she was like, I think the tablets are finished in your system, you can try. but I had no milk at all. I was taking a lot of medication. I could barely hold my own son. So there was no chance that I could breastfeed. But if you hear somebody close to you saying something like, I think the medication is finished. I mean, I think the medication is off your system. Maybe you could try, because my baby was very small and very light. Like when you hold him, like very light, you could feel he's very light. So they would say things like, because my other daughter was very chubby. Look at Winona, look how big she is. This one, hey, we're just leaving it to God, you know, but maybe he'll be fine. It's not meant to, I think they just say it because it's what they know. But you deep down, you also wish, I wish I could just breastfeed him for a month. But imagine I have all those medications and then I breastfeed my son, and it was very strong medications, because even I myself, I could not stand on my own 2 legs. So
because you had surgeries, you had 2 surgeries.
Yes.
You had a
Actually
cesarean.
had 4.
You had 4 surgeries.
Yes.
So one was the cesarean section.
So I had an emergency cesarean section. It was done.
How many months were you?
6.5 or 6 months and a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had an emergency cesarean section. It went well. And then that's on the 4th of Feb. On the 5th, I went through my first lung operation. And then it was done. But 4 days after, then the water built up again in my lungs, and I went for another surgery. That's the 3rd one. And then I was fine for a while. And then because I was just lying on my bed, the C-section cut open and it had pus and all that. So I had to go again and redo my whole C-section. So when I came back now, my lungs could not breathe on their own.
Yeah.
So now they had to do another operation now on my lungs.
Okay. So now let's go back, because this is a health show and I want people to understand. So the lung issues, because you were really sick, you developed something called sepsis, and your lungs actually had pus. But to just break it down to why you even got really sick when you were pregnant, you had an underlying diagnosis.
Yes.
Did you know about this diagnosis before the pregnancy, or this came after?
No, I didn't know about the lupus, because they told me they think it's a systematic lupus disease. But now, as I learn about lupus, I realized that I always had it, because if you remember Ngala, when I was in junior school, I had TB. So I've always had something to do with my lungs. I had asthma.
Yes.
I've always been using the spray. I've had TB. If I play or do anything around dusty areas, like now in Nairobi, I'm suffering because of the dust allergies and stuff like that. So perhaps it was there, but it was always misdiagnosed. So I call my son my life savior, because I feel like it was through him that doctors started trying to understand what exactly is happening. And then that's when rheumatology started realizing that there's something going on with my cells and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it came through because of carrying my son.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I felt that's important to highlight, because it's some people the people who do have systematic lupus disease, or SLE, what they like to call it, is that they need to understand that any pregnancy it's very high risk.
Yeah.
So for you, it was very new, you didn't know about it, so you were just going about it like the ordinary pregnancy.
Yes.
Your first pregnancy went
Well.
generally well, meaning probably your immune system at that time was okay and it was well controlled.
Yes.
And now things went south. You've had 4 operations. You know, and this is why we're having this conversation, that sometimes things don't always go well. Pregnancies can be complicated. Pregnancies are not easy. And that's most of the conversation we've been having with most people. So if you're lucky enough to have a good pregnancy, then you're lucky enough maybe to, want to breastfeed normally. Yes. And now you became really sick. You were in ICU, you couldn't. How was that experience? Like just waking up out of surgery, you have a child, you don't know where they are, you haven't seen them. How was that for you? Like just psychologically, emotionally for you, milk-wise?
So it's very depressing, because you walk in a hospital, you just have a fever and you think you'll be out, and next thing 3 months down the line, you're still in a hospital. And for me, the first time I woke up and I was looking for my son, it was already a month gone, or 3 weeks or so.
Wow.
Because when you're in a hospital, it just passes the time just passes so fast. So it was definitely more than 2 or 3 weeks at that time, because by the time I went there and the baby was small, I could see him through the glass. So my son was born at 1.7 kg. Well, I'm told, and I see from the documents, obviously. But the doctors kept saying, he's so big, but he looked like a small, tiny baby. And for me, it was just confusing because I don't remember giving birth to him, but I do see a picture my husband took. I was holding him, obviously drugged and stuff like that. So I see him about 3 weeks after. I don't know this person. And I don't know if I love them. I don't know if they're really my, but at least he looked exactly like the father. But I can't really connect with him. I'm just happy that they're alive. I'm just happy that they're doing better than me. Because in fact, my son was ready to go home before me. So I was just happy that they're ready to go home. But one thing I've always been scared of is me not connecting to him. Especially he was born when I was not, well, like I was not there physically. I was there, but I was not there. And then also I couldn't breastfeed him. And then he was kangarooed by my husband. And when I finally got the chance to kangaroo him, I wasn't feeling anything.
The bond, the emotional
I wasn't
connection.
feeling anything at all. So it was.
And did the doctors explain to you why you don't feel that emotional bond? Or
No,
is it
no one explained anything. But because I talk a lot, I would ask, and they would just say, "It happens." But I want more. I want to know more.
Exactly.
But no one really. Doctors are they just want to concentrate on getting the patient better.
Yeah.
But not necessarily dealing with their mental health.
The mental and the psychological side of things. Yeah. So you see now you don't have that emotional attachment with your child when he was born. And it's so good that your husband was able to kangaroo, because it's so important to kangaroo, because when it comes to breast milk, you have two hormones that really you want to play with. One is your let-down hormone, and then the other one is your milk production hormone. So the let-down hormone, or the let-down milk hormone, helps to eject the milk outside. But it's called oxytocin. So it's also our pleasure hormone. You know, the one when you orgasm, oxytocin is like produced. So when you have that emotional attachment, even the sound of your baby crying or thinking of your child, you can actually have milk coming out. So sometimes you can have one of those oops as a breastfeeding mother, and you're wondering how come milk is just coming out, because you're having thoughts of your baby. So when you don't have that attachment, we usually say it's recommended that as soon as the baby is born, immediately on the mom's breast to kangaroo. But sometimes things happen, you can have a cesarean section, you're not yet out, but immediately as you wake up, they encourage that. So you have that kangaroo bond. So it's not your fault that there was something wrong with you feeling like you don't have an emotional attachment. It's just that we didn't start kangarooing very, very early. And then that bond needs to be established so that, you know, the systems, it's a very emotional hormone, and it all works together. Yeah. So that's the information that I feel that the pediatrician or the neonatologist should have told you, like, you know, don't worry about it. It's something common. It's because we didn't kangaroo you, and it's because you were really sick. Like, that was, for me personally, as your brother, like, was one of the toughest times for me, knowing that you're in ICU. I don't know if my sister is going to come out. I don't know what the next phone call is. You know, my nephew is there. He's really, really small. We don't know what the situation is. So it was really, really an emotional roller coaster. And I can just imagine, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm so proud of what my nephew Jaden is today. He's a bouncing boy. Yes. And that's another conversation I want to have. Like, now when you left the hospital, transitioning now from the hospital to home. And before I go to home, I think what's so important to highlight that when you're in South Africa, they started you on breast milk, donor breast milk. Yes. Now, it's so important. We have that here in Kenya. There's a place where mothers can actually go to a breast milk bank. It's at the Pumwani Hospital. But I'm glad, and it goes to show that breast milk is so important that we don't have any substitute. You actually either can get a donor, so you get breast milk, that's an option. And then the other option is now eventually formula as the other alternative. So that's what I want to talk about. Like, now when you went home, did you know what these formulas were about? Did you know that there's actual formula for premature babies? For preemies, they have their own formula. Did you know about that? So
I didn't know. He had different formula at the hospital, and then he was prescribed a different formula when he went home. And then we're seeing the doctor every 2 weeks, if I recall. But every time we come, they change it. But all I have is a piece of paper telling me which one to buy, but not necessarily explaining anything really, because he would be taking the formula, he won't be sick, but they would know. But if now that you're asking me, I'm wondering, why did he go through different types of formulas, you know? All I was happy about is that the medical aid covered all that, so I was just picking formula as the doctor prescribed. But actually, I don't know why. I don't know why we had to change it, but it was all different formulas.
Okay, and it's important. I think what I can highlight, yes, the negative side would be, it would have been better if he would have explained. You know, doctors, we really brush off people quickly because we're always running around, we're always busy. So sometimes we don't have enough time to actually explain, which is actually quite wrong. But the good thing is that I like that you said every time you went every 2 weeks. So it's very important. Formula is actually should be prescribed. It shouldn't be just something like you should now be sitting at home, oh, I have this baby, let me go to the supermarket and buy formula. Because it's important to understand that formulas, they're different formulas and they perform a different function. So for premature babies, they actually require more calories than the normal human milk can carry. And then there's also a lot of things we need to fortify in the milk. So even when you're breastfeeding, even if you've got a premature and you decide to breastfeed, your breast milk should actually be fortified. They need to add other what we call micronutrients so that they can grow. Mostly folic, multivitamins, because remember the baby has come out very early, so their organs and things like that haven't really fully developed. So when you're saying this baby is born now and they're 1 month and they were born at 6 months, it's actually a 7-month-old. You know, you have to correct what we call the gestational age, and then their calories are different. And that's why you can't give a premature baby just the regular formula that you'll give a normal term baby, because what they put in there, what the scientists have tried to mimic of breast milk is quite different. So it's important, I think the take-home message is, if you have to introduce formula, let it come from the doctor. So unfortunately, they didn't tell you, but they were doing the right thing, and you could see the changes that as time goes on, you change into this type of formula to the next type of formula. And that's basically what it is, just to make sure we're adapting to the way the baby is growing. So you had, once the baby was on those formulas and you're coming up for your regular checkup, seeing the neonatologist, baby was growing fine?
The baby was growing fine. The baby was growing too big. Shem, he really didn't suffer. He's just a blessing.
He didn't get sick.
He wasn't a sickly baby. All the things that they told me might happen, none of them happened. I mean, Jaden now plays soccer, like he runs around. You know how he is.
Yes.
So I'm so lucky. He's never had a flu in his life. He's never had, when I
never been admitted.
No, he's never been. When I took him to preschool, I was worried about the stomach bugs, the flu. He's never, he's such a healthy baby. So I'm very thankful. He's not a sickly baby at all. And he actually did the milk for 6 months, still exclusive, not breastfeeding, what do you call it now?
The
milk feeding.
Yes,
he did the milk thing still for 6 months. But I think by 4.5, almost 5 months, even the pediatrician was like, this one is fine. You can start small solids a little bit. I'm actually shocked because I was gonna keep him on milk for like 8 months, because remember, his 6 months is not really 6 months. But she was happy by 5 months. He said, no, you can start small things. You can give him avocado. Let's see how it goes, little bit. So I think with him, I don't know, he was just blessed, But one thing about me, I had the doctor's support from. They were really supportive. They should, although they didn't explain some things step by step, I had them, and my son grew very well. I didn't have any issues with him at all.
I think that's the most important for any premature baby. You have to go along with the journey. And I tell even normal babies, I tell mothers, you need to have at least one pediatrician, somebody who can really follow up with the way things are going. And so that we can pick, if there's anything wrong, we can pick along the way. So that's the most important, and that's what I wanted to tell people. Like, go through that journey with your pediatrician. They know what they're doing, or with your neonatologist if you have a preemie, and they'll take you all the way. The fact that you went, he's never been admitted. Breastfeeding usually has so many protective things, but nowadays science is changing things, and formulas are trying to mimic as much as possible. And it's really, really I think that's such a beautiful story to know, Dodo, that you were so unwell, to discover this new thing, SLE in pregnancy, to this thing almost taking you to the baby being born premature, and look at where you are now, look at where your baby is. I'm so, so happy for you. And I'm really grateful that you've come through my show and you've just expressed this so openly so that people can understand that sometimes when people tend to form it, don't judge. Don't just judge and say that person is not breastfeeding and they don't know your situation. They don't know what you had to go through, you know, fighting for your life. And then you go and start judging people. So thank you so much for blessing me.
Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, if you can just share your experiences, I think even if it helps one person, it's more than enough. If I had seen this before I had my son, I'm sure I would have had less guilt. But I've dealt with it. I'm fine now. But there are other people who still go through the same thing. They must just know that sometimes you cannot give your child the best, but the second best is good enough. Yeah. If he's going to save him. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And there you have it, people. It's been Ask Dr. Rain, another breastfeeding series. And we've just heard that amazing story about how we had to introduce formula because she was unwell. And listen, as usual, we are not here to promote any formulas or any brands. We're here to just explain and share experiences of breastfeeding mothers across Africa. Dodo is originally from Botswana, but resides in South Africa. And you can see that the issues are still the same. And that's what this platform is about. We are trying to share African experiences and we deal with these African solutions the best way we know how. So keep it Ask Dr. Rain. We're still going to have more breastfeeding conversations, more health conversations. Subscribe, follow us on our socials, and keep it Ask Dr. Rain. Peace out.